strategist and contributor for Turning Point USA. Erin Elmore is here. Political analyst Mark Halperin is here, big baseball fan. And senior contributor Tlaib gave the president, it looked like a tongue lashing there on the tarmac. He had sunglasses on, so you couldn't really tell what he was, what he was thinking as this was happening. But you could definitely tell that he was surprised. But what I'm interested in, Erin, is it seems like the progressive left and they've been going after the Israeli people and Benjamin Netanyahu in defense of not necessarily Hamas, but the Palestinians. And no one is calling him on that. How troubling is that?
This is beyond troubling for Jewish people in America, Israel, and around the world. Israel is the only Jewish state in the world and needs to be protected. If Hamas puts down their weapons, as Benjamin Netanyahu said, we have peace. If Israel puts down their guns, Israel ceases to exist. What Rashida Tlaib and the squad is doing is nothing more than a blatant display of anti-Semitism. And it needs to stop because Israel is an important ally of the United States and is important for the world at large. The Jewish people need a home and they need a safe place. And it is this speck of dust in the Middle East, and we have to protect it at all costs. And Joe Biden better really step up. And I tell you what, one more thing. Every Jewish Democrat that knows I'm a conservative and a Jew has spoken to me. This is a real tipping point in America because if they allow this to happen, it would be horrible for the world. And I do think that the Jews in New York and California that have reached out to me are seeing this as a big moment for Democrats, and they're really waking up, thank God.
Yeah, and Israel's population, the Jewish population in Israel, by the way, just under 60%. I think people think it's like 98%, but there are, it's 20% Arab, the population of Israel. And by the way, there are Arabs in the Israeli parliament. I don't think people are aware of that as people like AOC and Rashida Tlaib. Rashida Tlaib was on with Joy Reid. We're going to play you the soundbite coming up, but it was really really troubling to hear. We'll get to that in a minute. I do want to talk about this panel a little bit. Mark is literally he's sleeping with his eyes open right now. Mark, it's 6:40 in the morning. It's unbelievable. All right, Erin, quick question for you. You've been posting a lot of pictures with Candace Owens. I know you guys have been doing some work together. Serious question. You think she's serious about running in 2024 or being part of a ticket, or is that just to kind of promote the podcast?
So first of all, I think Candace Owens is absolutely serious about running for president, and I think that her and Donald Trump on a joint ticket would be a surefire way to win. I spent some time with her out in Nashville. She's doing really well. Her husband, George, just took the job as CEO of Parler. Wow. And by the way, she told me that it's actually pronounced parlay, but hey, for all Americans, it is going to be Parler. So they are doing really, really well. They have a little baby. They are thriving in Nashville. And I think she is ready to rock and roll. So Candace, 2024, here we come.
I didn't
said
know
by her press secretary.
Oh, really? I didn't realize. So it's Parler. I thought, so if you're in Boston, it's Pala.
Pala.
It's Pala, kid. Quickly, we just got a moment, but I want to show you this. Mark, big basketball fan. I know that. Back to sports. Bill de Blasio, mayor of New York City. Boy, he looks like, you ever seen Fletch, Mark?
They make everyone safe.
All right.
Him eating French fries was bad.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. And by the way, that we know that people that are obese tend to be more susceptible to serious cases of coronavirus. Let's give everybody fast food for getting vaccinated. And going on throughout the country. Last Thursday, Erin, is when this mandate was lifted for masks by the CDC and Joe Biden. My thought is that would give companies and that would give businesses, restaurants, cover to start reopening, but there just remains a lot of confusion out there among the public. I want to play you a video yesterday. It's tough to watch, but this is a teacher yelling at a student who apparently wasn't wearing a mask. Take a look and we'll get some reaction.
Fine. I don't care if you're vaccinated, you little
Okay.
I don't want to get sick and die.
Okay.
There's other people you can infect just because you're vaccinated. You know what? You're not a special person around here. You should hear about how everybody talks about you.
I
You're
know
a
how people
jerk.
talk to me. I don't care how people
You're
talk
a
about me.
jerk.
Okay?
And you need to have respect for other people in your life.
I do.
You're not a big man on campus walking around here like you have a stick up your butt.
I'm just trying not to grease my shoes. That's why I'm walking out that.
It's not.
All right, Erin, your thoughts. I mean, first of all, a teacher should never, ever be speaking to a student like that. I don't care what the circumstances are, but that's just completely inappropriate.
I'm floored by that. The words that she used and chose were horrible. No adult, no child, no person should speak that way. She was not stating facts either. And by the way, why is it her political prerogative to push on these children? Shame on her. We know that the leading cause for hospitalization with COVID is obesity, and we know that young people aren't necessarily transmitters. So this is a really horrible situation, and I really hope that the parents and the school board get involved here and that she loses her job or at least has to issue a public apology, because this is no way to talk to a child, to speak to a student, to put a child in a position where they are shamed and bullied and abused by someone in a position of power. Shame on her, shame on this school, and I really hope there are repercussions taken.
And Mark, this is a microcosm. This is happening all over the country right now. By the way, in that video, I don't know if you could hear it, but that student is fully vaccinated. And
Before Mark talks.
Of course. Yeah, of course.
Why should our vaccination and private medical information be shared so publicly these days? People go out and have like a cocktail party conversation about vaccination status. I want to go back to a society where our medical information is completely private. No one should be comfortable asking you about a doctor's appointment or a vaccination. I think that should be the culture that we create. And we should say, you know what, I'm really sorry, but I think private medical information should remain private. Let's make that the new narrative. Sorry, Mark.
That's right. First of all, how old was that student, Rob? That seemed like an adult to me.
high school student. I believe a junior in high school.
All right, he's pretty mature. I guess Erin doesn't want to see the new panda tattoo that I have on my palm. Too much sharing.
Right.
Look, I think the fall is going to be a very complicated time in schools. That teachers' behavior is beyond the pale.
Yeah. Let's bring in the Powerhouse panel on this Wednesday morning. We've got attorney and Republican strategist, as well as a contributor for Turning Point USA, Erin Elmore. Our White House correspondent, John Gizzi, is with us as well. Erin, first question for you, John, then we'll go to you. But the House wants to create this 10-person, what they're calling independent, impartial panel to look at the Capitol Hill riots back on January 6th. Is that even possible? By the way, it reminds me of trying to find jurors for Derek Chauvin. Can we really find an independent, impartial commission that is run by Democrats?
Unfortunately, right now we're living in such a partisan era, and there is no unity. There is no place of commonality between Democrats and Republicans, and they are just banging this gong that is the Republicans that have incited an insurrection. Those have become buzzwords when they're actually legal words from the case of Brandenburg versus Ohio. So they should really look into that case law and understand what those words mean. But we should look into things that happened last summer, all of the various looting and incidents of rioting. There are so many incidents over the last year. The focus on this one has been weaponized by the Democrats because it's a way that they can shift the narrative to that all Republicans are bad and that we should be censored. So this truly isn't about what happened on January 6th. It's about a larger picture of silencing Republicans as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, John Gizzi, nice to see you again, first of all. But I honestly, if they're going to do a panel to investigate what happened on January 6th, I really think we should have a commission panel to investigate what happened throughout the 5 months of 2020 when we had not protests, not peaceful protests, not people exercising their rights as Americans, but violent riots where people died. People died, and we need to, why don't we investigate that? Because they happened in every major city in this country in 2020.
Before I begin, I just want to say that I saw Leader McCarthy's 11th hour opposition on the January 6th commission. This shows how difficult it is to negotiate with Republicans.
Be opposition to that on certainly on the right. We'll see if that's bipartisan. Democrats, 34 Democrats, including members of the squad, AOC, Ayanna Pressley, are demanding an end of targeted deportations of criminally illegal immigrants who are already in the country. This includes gang members, members of suspected members of MS-13, and people with long criminal histories. My question to you, as the left continues this hugely progressive rollout and agenda, at some point, don't you think they're going to face pushback? Because they've got midterm elections coming up. And I know conservative America, moms and dads out there, parents who are concerned about the defund the police movement. At some point, these Democrats have to get reelected, and it's this agenda that's going to really hurt that ability.
I think that we should really be looking forward to these midterm elections to see what happens. And that's my hope, that this pendulum will swing away from that horrible progressive agenda. And I do think that for the Jewish Democrat voter, what's happening in Israel right now with Israel and Palestine has been a wake-up call to the Squad and their anti-Semitism, and perhaps that will start changing some votes. And as you said, these parents, the Squad has argued for these children to be out of school and has sort of kowtowed to the teachers' unions. I pray and hope that 2022 will be a referendum on these far leftist policies, the far left agenda, and this Marxism and socialism that is really amongst us. And if it does not occur, we should really take a long, hard look in the mirror and figure out what we can do as Americans, because we are headed completely into socialism if this continues.
Yeah, John,
it's scary and it's tragic and has to stop.
Erin, you're right. This is real. This progressivism, it's. I think it's going to cost Democrats in 2022. But what concerns me right now, we've got 19 months to go until that point, and the Squad and many of these progressives have the ear of Joe Biden.
That's me or John Gizzi.
That's to my good friend John Gizzi. By the way, John, there's a picture over your shoulder. Is that a young John Gizzi, or is that maybe your son? I just can't tell.
No, that's the young John Gizzi.
What a handsome fellow right there.
Roll over into the midterm elections.
Yeah, what we're seeing right now, it's a weird situation. We're at a place where crossing the border illegally is no longer illegal in this country. Very bizarre. Panel, we'll pick this back up after the break. Good stuff, as always. Also coming up this morning, KT McFarland is going to be joining us to talk about President Biden's trip to Michigan, a candidate in Pennsylvania, and the author of Nothing to Lose, Everything to Gain, a great book. Kathy Barnett is with us. Attorney, Republican strategist, and contributor for Turning Point USA, Erin Elmore is here, and our White House correspondent, the one and only John Gizzi, joining us from our nation's capital this morning as well. John, good to see you. I want to play you a soundbite. I found this was really repulsive to listen to. Kathy, we'll start with you, but it's Rashida Tlaib, Congresswoman from Michigan, on with Joy Reid yesterday. Take a listen to what she had to say.
Their January 6th is happening right now daily in their lives, in their own neighborhoods, being attacked by mobs solely because they're Palestinian, their ethnicity. They're targeted because of their ethnicity. And the statements coming from President Biden, you don't hear the words Palestinians deserve human rights.
That message needs to be put out there every single day. I don't know why, but it does.
Hamas is a terror organization, and the Squad are anti-Semites, period. And I like that you did point out that there are other people living in Israel. There are Jews, there are Muslims, there are Arabs, but let's face it, Israel is the only Jewish state in the world. They need to have their sovereignty. They need to have their independence. They need to have their freedom, and they need to have the right to exist. Israel is not an occupation. Hamas is a terror organization, and we have to stop anti-Semitism here in the United States, and we have to show support for Israel. We cannot allow these Squad members to say such feckless and reckless things, because all they're doing is showing that anti-Semitism is okay, and they are normalizing it. And when people don't acknowledge and realize that Hamas is an organization of terror, that is really irresponsible journalism, and shame on them.
John Gizzi, I've got a quick question for you. This was developing yesterday. We had Andrew Giuliani, the son of Rudy Giuliani, in studio yesterday. He's going to be on the program. He was on Newsmax yesterday, and this news that he's going to run against Andrew Cuomo. It's a big-name Republican against a big-name Democrat.
Let's talk about the Republican nomination first. Remember, Congressman Lee Zeldin, also a guest on Newsmax programs several times, is a candidate and has the backing of most of the state Republican chairmen. Say the election is a long way off, and overnight is an eternity in politics.
John, you should be